In 2007, in the Bongcheon-dong neighborhood of Seoul, Korea, a 33-year-old woman named Jo jumped from the balcony of her apartment and died on impact. She had recently divorced. The divorce had been her fault, the result of an affair. And when custody of her 2-year-old daughter was decided, it was decided against her. Her daughter was given to her husband. Jo was left alone in an apartment with nothing that had mattered to her still inside it. She did not survive that for long. What happened next depends on who you ask. The official record ends with her death, but the people who lived in that apartment complex, the ones who walked those grounds after dark, began reporting something in the weeks and months that followed. A woman, barefoot, wearing the same dirty pink pajamas she had on when she died, moving between the buildings at night, slowly, her body wrung in a way that was hard to describe, every joint twisted at an angle no living body achieves. She would stop sometimes between the buildings and look up at the windows of the apartments above her, looking for something she could not find. The sightings spread beyond the apartment complex, then beyond the neighborhood. Reports came in from people who had no connection to Jo, no knowledge of what had happened in that building, who had simply been walking in Bongcheon-dong after dark and encountered something they could not explain. The descriptions were consistent across accounts from people who had never spoken to each other. The same twisted joints, the same dirty pink pajamas, the same question asked in the same unbearably sad voice. It became one of the most widely known and widely reported ghost stories in South Korea. The story inspired dramas, horror anthologies, and countless retellings. People began traveling to Bongcheon-dong specifically because of what they had heard. Some of them came back with their own accounts. Some of them didn't talk about what they saw at all, which in its own way said just as much. Hello, I'm Wisplight. This is Sleep Radio. Tonight's story is about a mother, about what happens when the thing that kept her alive is taken from her, and she dies still reaching for it, and about why 17 years later, people in Bongcheon-dong still cross the street when they see a woman moving strangely between the buildings after dark. To understand what happened after Jo died, you need to understand the Korean concept that doesn't have a direct English translation. The word is Han, spelled Han in Korean. Han is the emotional pain that lingers after a traumatic experience, after an injustice so deep and so unresolved that it doesn't leave when the person dies. Instead, it follows the soul. It accumulates across years, across generations, building pressure in the dark, looking for somewhere to go. Han is sorrow and resentment woven together, the feeling of a wound that never healed because nobody ever acknowledged it was there. In Korean folklore, this is why the dead come back, not to terrorize, not because they are evil, but because their Han was never resolved, because they suffered something so wrong, so unacknowledged, that even death could not make them let go of it. They come back because they cannot leave until someone finally recognizes what happened to them. Jo died full of Han. Jo died wanting her daughter. She did not die full of anger or hatred toward the people and circumstances that had taken everything from her. The accounts of what people saw afterward do not describe something violent or vengeful. They describe something searching, something that had not yet understood it was dead, or that understood and simply could not accept it, because the last thing in her mind before the end was her daughter's face, and she had never said goodbye, and the child didn't know where her mother had gone. That kind of death doesn't resolve cleanly. In Korean folklore, it never has. The witnesses described her the same way across different accounts, across different nights, across different people who had no reason to coordinate their stories. Dirty pink pajamas, the ones she had on when she died. Barefoot, even in the cold. And her body moved in a way that looked like every joint had been broken and reset incorrectly. Her neck at an angle no living neck achieves. Her wrists bent backwards, her knees facing the wrong direction, her spine curved so that her movement was somewhere between walking and crawling, lurching and dragging, covering ground in a way that didn't match how slowly she appeared to be moving. Her face was bleeding, her eyes were red, and she was asking in a voice that those who heard it described as almost unbearably sad. She was asking where her baby was. There is a specific logic to what she does in the accounts that I find impossible to stop thinking about. When she approaches someone, she does not attack. She asks in Korean, 우리 애기 어딨어요? Where is my baby? And the person standing there in the dark between the apartment buildings, completely frozen, does not know what to say. There is no correct answer. There is no answer that will make her understand or make her go back to wherever she came from. So people point somewhere, anywhere away from themselves. They tell her the child went that way, that her daughter is over there. And she turns and she goes. And the person stands alone on that path and watches a dead woman walk towards something that is not there. Still searching, still believing that if she just keeps moving, she will find what was taken from her. The ghost is not the horror here. I want to be clear about that. Jo is not a monster. She's not trying to hurt anyone. She's a mother who lost her child and then lost herself and did not have anywhere else to go. So she came back to the last place she knew, the grounds where her daughter had lived, and she kept looking. The horror is not what she became. The horror is what happened to her while she was still alive. A 2-year-old daughter taken. A woman alone in an apartment she could not make herself stay inside. The horror happened in a courtroom, in daylight, in a proceeding that functioned exactly as it was supposed to function and produced a result that broke something in a person beyond repair. She did not haunt because she was angry. She haunted because she was a mother who did not know how to stop looking for her child. There is one detail I keep coming back to. She's wearing her pajamas, not burial clothes, not a white funeral dress, the dirty pink pajamas she had on during the last ordinary night of her life before she walked to the balcony. She did not prepare. She did not make a decision that had been building over days toward a deliberate end. Something in her simply reached the absolute limit of what it could hold, and she was still in her pajamas when it happened. She did not change. She did not leave a note. She died in the clothes of someone who had been alive just moments before. Someone who had been sitting in her apartment, wearing pajamas, thinking about her daughter. And that is what she still wears when she walks the grounds of Bongcheon-dong at night. Because that is the last thing she was. A woman in pajamas at the end of an ordinary night who ran out of reasons to stay. If you are ever in Bongcheon-dong after dark, walking between the apartment buildings, and you see a woman moving strangely at the edge of the light, her joints wrong, her feet bare on the cold ground, and she turns towards you and asks where her baby is, point somewhere, anywhere, as far as you can reach. Tell her the child went that way, and then walk. Do not run. Running tells her you saw something worth running from. Walk quickly, without looking back until you're inside. She will not follow you inside. She never goes inside, because inside is where her daughter used to sleep, in a room that belongs to someone else now. And she cannot make herself go back to that. This has been Sleep Radio, the ghost of Bongcheon-dong. Joe is still there, still looking. She has been looking for 17 years. Good night.